You know, we're gonna pop in Mondays. Y'all know we go You know, we want to get the discussion started, and I'm glad everybody came in great spirit. I mean, the fact that there's 3 men on here, and you know that good football game's going on. I appreciate y'all. You know what I mean? But yeah. So today our topic is, maintain your self-respect and leave your ego at the door. And we just want y'all to know we're not talking about ego like the psychology term that is coined by Freud, Sigmund Freud, but we're talking about ego, being short, and how we use in our relationship is really being used short for egotistical. So it's being egotistical versus, having self-respect. And our society, we're big on not hurting people's feelings, so we'll hit an abbreviation quick. But really, when we're saying something regarding ego, we're talking about, stop being egotistical. So for our panelists, I want to hear the difference. What do y'all think the difference is between ego and self-respect?
To me, I believe they're two opposite extremes, you know what I'm saying? So being egotistical is being driven by, you know what? I know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know if I could articulate it. But
just say it and we'll figure it out.
Okay. We're here. We're all here to support. We're not here to downgrade, or we're here to support. It's a discussion.
Just say it, brother.
Yeah, I guess I basically said it. Like ego and self-respect. All right, so self-respect is like you're not going to be nobody's doormat. You know what I'm saying? Ego is being overconfident that's not based on valid reasons. You know what I'm saying? So if you're driven by your ego, you have an inflated opinion of yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's not justified.
Okay.
Well, let me say this, right? And this is more directed towards Drastic and then the panel. Okay, Drastic, you know the type of person I am. I'm a union rep at our company, and what I say is what I mean, and what I mean is what I say. Okay, I don't take anybody's shorts, and I don't give anybody shorts. It is what it is, and people look at me like I'm crazy. So I'm okay. I'll be crazy. My ego, it is what it is. Shout it out. This is 100% me. And I've used that example all this time that I've been on the panel at my house. Mm-hmm. And with my wife and my kids. When I say something, I mean it. And it's not dragged on. And I don't need to drag it on. Okay. And Drastic knows that about me. He knows the type of person I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wasn't actually meaning it in that regard. Like, there's nothing wrong with being confident. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing wrong with speaking your truth and stating that. But what I was saying about egotistical is like that's like an inflated opinion of yourself that's not justified. Like it's there's no moderation with it. You know what I'm saying? I would have said.
And I agree with what you're saying. And it's inflated for me because of the job title that I have. I'm not trying to be stronger than anybody. I'm not trying to go over anybody. I'm just saying that that's the way I've been all my life. And Dras, when I say to somebody, I'm gonna shut it down, I'm shutting it down. It is what it is.
Yeah, it'd be like if a boss is trying to write you up and you be like, you know who I am? I'm Joe Falou.
Stop. But that's
that's how that runs. What about you, Barry?
So
be the difference.
So self-worth is, self-confidence is your self-worth, what you feel about yourself, your value, how you assess yourself and your self-worth and your self-value. Ego is, to me, is that thing where it's the false sense. It's the false view of yourself that is generally connected to a self-defense mechanism, where you're like, you act a certain way because, even though you're a shy person, but you project that you're more confident than you really are. And so it's not really connected to a real sense of self-worth. It's more projected to defend the insecurity or defend something that you want to hide from someone.
Okay. Let's say that's accurate. Christine, I know you're still driving, but I don't know if you want to chime in before we move on.
Yeah, I can, but probably no video for now. So I think self-respect is kind of like what you tolerate, like really your true self-esteem about yourself, how you view the world from your own perspective. And I think that ego is kind of this, I don't think you should kill the ego. There's a lot of spiritual talk about killing the ego, but I think you need to have a healthy relationship with it, which you said it last week when you said, know who you are in the room. I thought that was a really awesome thing to say, because that's a really good ego check. If you're in the room full of supermodels, you're probably going to check the ego at the door. If you're in the room full of other things, you might be inflated. But to me, it's kind of the ego is more about how you are willing to treat other people. And if your ego gets in the way of you being like a kind, generous, loving human, then it's an issue. But I don't think self-respect is an issue. Like, I don't think self-respect is ever an issue. I think it's how you treat others. That's kind of my interpretation.
And Jazz is saying self-respect, ego is self-serving, that has no direction, good or bad, with no standards. And I would say all those things are what make up the ego versus self-respect. And just to add on to that, what we're talking about, obviously, we always have to keep things in the context of our personal relationships, right? When we're on this platform. And, like Joe said, in his job, there's an established hierarchy. You know what I mean? There's nothing equal about you being that person's boss, because when you walk in, you're equal as human beings, but when you walk in, there's a pecking order. There's already something established. But when you're talking about your relationships, and obviously we're talking about being in equal and healthy relationships. So we're talking about matching up and measuring up with equals. And when we say leave your ego at the door, obviously the ego being short for egotistical. It's like where you're saying I supersedes we. Anytime you can run around and you sit back and you think I'm willing to damage us to benefit me, that's where the ego is taking place. I just want to be right. I just want to be like, I'm not really trying to come to a common ground. I'm not really trying to come to agreement. I'm losing track of the focus. I'm losing track of the destination. And I just want something that's going to benefit me, going to fulfill me, going to boost my self-confidence, but take from somebody else's. And it's supposed to be equal relationship. So when you think about ego versus self-respect, it's your boundaries, it's your principles. It's the things that you come in with that you're not adjusting, that you start with in the beginning of a relationship, and you draw that line and say, once you cross that, our relationship is going to be in turmoil, because that's what makes me who I am. So it's still self-respect, and it's still dealing with self, and it's still having a level of self, because obviously they cross that boundary, you're losing focus of who I am, which hurts the overall relationship. But when now you become egotistical, it's a whole different framework. It's coming from a whole different mentality. You want to add?
Well, I was gonna just add to that. Like when you think about your ego or just self-respect, it comes with your track record, who you are, who you've been, how you show up on a consistent basis, right? When you think of an ego, most people are entitled. They're entitled to their feelings. They're entitled to certain things, and they feel that they have the right to be able to do certain things because of who they are, and it's not really earned. So when you think of that, you know, and you think of self-respect of something that self-respect is who you are day in and day out. And when you think of your ego as something that's driven for a selfish reason. Unless, like I said, like, you know, when you gave the example at work, like there is, when you are at work and you have certain positions, people have to respect your position, but that will go with the self-respect. Because they're already going in knowing who you are, what you bring to the table, and what you have to do. So you can't really cross, like there's boundaries already set just based on your title alone.
Definitely.
So you should be able to say that I am making this decision on the strength that I'm the manager.
Definitely.
Now, what type of manager you are, you may be the type of manager that wants to explain things, and that's cool. But you don't necessarily have to, because you call the shots. So it all depends on the type of manager you are, but just being a manager alone should allow you to make certain decisions, no questions asked.
Definitely.
And just to let everybody know, if anybody doesn't know, I did retire after 30 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Right.
Thank you. That's about you. That's about your age, right, brother? So
yeah.
I still hold my union rep, my grievance position, and and I take my job serious, and it combines with what we're saying now. You guys are deep. I'm getting ready to. I don't know what I got to say. Ain't no more. You guys are deep with what you're saying, because there's truth to it. There's mannerism. There's health to this conversation, and it's touching to me. It really is, because after 30 years, I can actually reach out and grasp a hold of what you guys are saying with all the experience that I've had at my job, at home. It always combines to home. Your job leads to home, your home leads to your job. It goes both ways. And you guys touch me. You really do.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, Dan has already been 19 minutes in, and Joe's already been touched.
Yeah. Welcome, Mahogany. What's going on?
Mahogany.
You on mute? What do you think of the topic of ego versus self-respect? Just to bring up to speed.
What are we defining it?
I mean, you already kind of defined it, but you could define it and add to what you heard so far.
I agreed with what I heard.
Okay.
I agree with what I heard. Ego comes from selfish from a selfish standpoint, where self-respect has everything to do with what you brought to the table, who you are, how you show up. And I agreed with what I heard.
So now what we want to know is, how do we actualize it within a relationship? Like, how do we differentiate when we're in them heightened states? And I can start it off by saying it's building strong principles going in before you get into those issues. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we're a platform that believes in being proactive versus reactive. And when we always have back and forth with a bunch of people, because they're always talking to us about a reactive love. You know what I mean? A person react, you got to figure out if you still want to be in a relationship with them, and what they did to you and what they didn't do, and how much you endured, and based on another person's reaction. But we're talking about a proactive love, being accountable, having a clear understanding, having guidelines before you go in. So when you have those guidelines and you're proactive and you have those guidelines established, it's more likely that you pull from your self-respect versus allowing your ego to take shape, because you both agreed on the destination and you're always trying to get there. So that would be that would be like one of the fundamentals of having it happen in real time. You know what I mean? What it takes to have it happen in real time. What do you think about, like, a proactive love versus, the reactive love everybody discusses?
Yeah, that's gonna
I
be.
think that everything always ends up going right back to self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're aware of who you are as a whole, plus who you are in the scenario, you tend to respond via that space, right? So when you understand yourself, you know, you pretty much can identify where your responses are coming from. Is this a response to, am I being proactive or am I reacting, right? So I just really feel like everything comes from how well you honestly know yourself, how well you know yourself, and how in tune with that and your relationship you actually are.
Well, I agree with that, but also I would like to add to that is knowing who you're dealing with, right? So if you are you having a conversation with someone and you're being told, or you're hearing something that you don't really want to hear, and it kind of like strikes a chord, you have to take a step back and think about, who is this person? What is their intent? What are they truly saying? What do they truly mean? And am I overreacting? I think that, yeah, you need that part of self-awareness, but you also need to acknowledge who you're dealing with, because not everyone's the enemy. Not everyone's out to get you. Not everyone doesn't have your best interest at heart, but there's sometimes when the people that you are around that care about you, they pinpoint things or bring up things that you may not want to hear at the moment. And you have to take a step back and say, you know what, wow, that really stung. But you know what, I know that you have my best interest at heart, instead of going at them like they're the enemy. And I think that's the balance between, you know, having your ego bruised and feeling some type of way and wanting to feel validated, as opposed to taking a step back and hearing what's being said and reacting accordingly.
If you don't mind me asking.
Go ahead.
You could ask anything, Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. You giggled at some point, and was that what she was saying? If I can ask that, I know you said I can ask anything, but I'm just.
When I
Talking
giggled?
about me?
Yeah, yes, you
Oh,
giggled.
you talking about me? I'm thinking you talking about. We don't know who you talking about. Okay,
I
so
said your name.
the reason I giggled when she said what she said is because the very essence of being egotistical when joining relationships is still trying to find out where you fit and just seeing you and what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So when we was talking about way, like Mahogany said, self-awareness, I giggled or I laughed. I didn't giggle, but I laughed because, yeah, she came from self-awareness, but that's half of it. And we tend to match words and say, yo, I act. I don't just use words. No, you're supposed to use words and action. That's what health is. You make the promise and then you act on it. So when she says self-awareness, I'm like, look, that's self-awareness. But true love is self-awareness and really taking in what the other person is and then making that something. It's meeting in the middle. Love is the middle ground. It's not just you. You know what I mean? So that's why I laugh, because Jerry hit a strong point. Like,
Gotcha. Yeah. Love is.
It's exactly what we talk about. Like, self-awareness is one thing, yeah, but when it comes to being truly aware of the person, when we're in a room alone, we are all egotistical. It's just our thoughts, just our ideas. It's just what we know and what we want, and when we're alone, that's where we at. That's the state of being we're in.
Okay.
Then when we actually interact with other people, we're now saying we're going to sacrifice some of our egotistical ways to truly get to know a person and truly have a great understanding of who the person is.
Gotcha.
So I think the initial question was that, you know, why aren't we more proactive? Is because, once again, proactiveness denotes a level of not just awareness, but actually being present in the relationship, and not just kind of coasting along and actually just kind of letting it come to you, and how we do, let's just let it be organic. It actually is being more intentional about it. So it takes a level of thought, and then takes a level of actual engagement to say, you know, listen, we need to focus on how do we develop the we, because generally, at least in my experience, has been where hey, we get into a relationship and all of a sudden we see something and then it makes us feel a certain way. And so we go into the self-protect mode, or we go into the ego and we start acting out of our ego, and we started acting towards the other person in an egotistical way because we're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to keep ourselves from being hurt. We're trying to keep ourselves and stuff like that. And then the other person does the same thing. And then you have two people who are on both sides saying that they love each other, but they're acting very much, opposite of that, based on their ego. Good or bad, because I think sometimes we think it's the, the outward stuff, but it's, somebody's withdrawing from the relationship is an ego thing. Somebody pulling back and or giving you the silent treatment is an ego thing. It isn't just the outward stuff, or treating someone negatively. It's those it's refusing to resolve issues. That's ego. Those are all things that are buried in the ego as well.
And I just want to say, just to piggyback off of what Mahogany was talking about, I agree with Aziz that that's only part of the equation. However, I think that's probably like one of the most important parts of the equation is to be self-aware. You know what I'm saying? Because like you got to know where your strengths and where your weaknesses are. Definitely. And also what direction you plan on going to. I got no control about, somebody that I'm in a personal relationship, I got a small level of control of what they're going to do or what they're not going to do. I have a lot of control on how I'm going to respond. You know what I'm saying? So as far as being proactive in relation to the personal relationship, we could have discussions about, how will we handle this situation if something like this happens? Like we can proactively do that, but there's no guarantee that everything is going to fall into place the way that, the way that we proactively came up with hypotheticals, you know what I'm saying? But one thing that we can have control over proactively is how well we respond. Like I had a situation where, matter of fact, it's on my Facebook. So I'll just put it out there where, somebody was like violating me, just disrespecting me, calling me names, whatever the case may be. And I promise you, at no point did I feel any kind of way inside. At no point did I feel a need to respond or to go back and forth, to get in my ego and go to bat and fight with this person. I'm like, all right, yeah, get your rocks off. All right, if that make you feel better. You know what I'm saying? Like, I promise you, I didn't feel any qualms, so I patted myself on the back in that situation. However, later, I'm in a Spanish spot getting ready to get some rice and beans, some good food. And I see a big line of people, and that's already there before I even went into the restaurant. And then some guy came in after me, and he went to like the front of the line, and I immediately, like without thinking about it, got in this personal space. I'm like, yo, you ordering, with all these people here? And then he's like, nah, I guess he had ordered ahead of time, got his food. And then I felt like the biggest jerk in the world. Like for one, like who cares? Like even if he did cut the line, like why am I in his personal space? Let him cut the line. Let him get the food. You know what I'm saying? So that was a situation where I didn't respond appropriately. In both of those situations, I found that as an opportunity to assess myself. Where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? Let me reinforce the strengths, and wherever the weaknesses are, let me pay attention to that I don't make that same mistake again in the future. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I mean, we do just to respond to what you're saying. We want you to start looking at it as a 50-50 deal. Like you can say it's more important, but there are a lot of people that are really self-aware. They have a clear understanding of who they are. But the chemistry when you come and you interact with another person, who you are changes something. You get what I'm saying? Like you can't sit up here and say you interact with another person and you are everything you are as a single person. It's not the case. You know what I mean? You have to factor in
Joe was on video.
You're dealing with.
Oh, sugar. Could you turn Joe's video off?
Yeah, wait up. Let me see how I can do this.
That's that old stuff he was talking about.
So.
Oh, that's no. I hear you, and I gave it.
Yeah, you was on video still using the bathroom, man. But.
Your bathroom.
But I just, just to get back on what we were saying, I just want you to start looking at it as it's the connection between, like we always talk about relationships. You see how like you're talking about strangers and you're talking about people that you may come in contact with, and you're talking about people that you interact with, like that you really don't have that relationship with. But if we have to be real with who we are, we're a lot more, quote unquote, sensitive with people that we actually care about. We have to check our ego a lot more with people that we actually care about, because they have a piece of us and they have a piece of our emotional well-being in their hand. So when you say we lack the control, I would say we influence each other. Like when you truly love a person, they can truly influence you. They have influence over you. So therefore they do, that's where we get the, let's make sure that we have that self-respect, and let's make sure that we respect the other person, because we know that we have the ability to really hurt them in ways that nobody else might possibly have the ability to hurt them. So we have to be mindful of that fact. We have to be mindful of the fact that we have that ability to do that. You get what I'm saying? So you do have to, in that case, you do have to go, okay, self-respect is very important, but it's as important as having an understanding of who you're surrounded by too.
But I think you, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
Let me just say that when I made the statement, I was thinking across the board, right? So, and I know we're talking about personal relationships, but the question was about, proactivity and ego or whatever. Mm-hmm. And my thought process was how I deal across the board with people, right? So it's everybody I don't know complete. I don't know personally to give them benefits of the doubt. I have to deal with me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so my response was thinking about the fact that me being self-aware, like I often now, when dealing with personal and, just regular interactions, I often think about where my responses or reactions or like how I responded or acted in the situation, where that came from. Okay. Am my feelings about something, did it strike a chord? Did it, like I always go through those things now just to check myself. And so that's where my response was coming from that space of knowing the difference between it being my ego or not, because I'm sitting here doing a self-check, like, where'd this come from? Where'd that feeling come from? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to take it a step further, right? Because self-awareness, like, it's important to be self-aware, so you know what your triggers are, so on and so forth, right? But are we self-aware enough? Oh, sorry, just like spit out. Sorry, I'm like drooling. Are we self-aware enough to know what we truly believe about the person that we're dealing with? Because that is how we, based on our belief of the person, is how we truly going to respond to them. Mm-hmm. So it's taking it like to the other level of, yeah, you know what your triggers are, you know what pisses you off, you know what you're not really feeling, but then there's the second part of, what do I truly believe about the person on the other side of me, right? Because that's going to determine how I deal with them. Are you that self-aware as well to know that if I'm spazzing out because really deep down inside I really think that they don't have my best interest at heart? Am I upset because I feel like they're not really pulling their weight in the relationship and I'm over it? You know what I mean? Like, are you guys tapping into that level of self-awareness?
Yes, I am. Only from the space of like I said, questioning my responses. Because now it's like, all right, why if I reacted in a way that was like a little much, it's like a little much, and it wasn't really called for. It's like, why'd you react that way? Okay, what was the trigger? Okay, what do you think about this person to make you respond to them? Like, you must think they're trying to hurt you. You must think they don't have your best interest. Like, I think about those things now. I didn't always. Actually, Aziz helped me get to that via an exchange. But yeah, I think about that now. I never did before. That's something that I came about most recent. But yeah, that's the level I'm at right now.
Go ahead.
I think that's the key though, and stuff like that, is that because the ego also drives how you respond to people and how you perceive people. And so, like Jerry was saying, is that if you perceive this person as not having your best interest or not really caring about you or having the type of if you feel like they don't value you, then your ego will drive the certain responses that come from them. And so all of a sudden you get back into that scenario I was given where all of a sudden each person is thinking the other person doesn't really care about them. And so now all of a sudden we jump, instead of being proactive and actually saying, you know what, let's work on the foundation of making sure that we trust each other. We respect each other. I know that you're coming from a place of love and this is not about trying to hurt me or trying to do something for me, but you're actually working to help me be better. And so because I know that, and because I know that I can actually operate, you know, and not in my ego. I can stay out of my ego, because when you say something that maybe it hurts a little bit, I know it's not because you're saying anything other than the fact that you're trying to help me be better. But generally we're not proactive enough to do that, because we're just waiting for someone to respond, because we haven't had those honest conversations. We hadn't really talked about we haven't really been transparent enough to say, you know, and create the type of atmosphere in our relationships that says, you know what, you can say this, and because I know where you're coming from. I know you personally, and I know that you have my best interest, and that you want the best for me always, period.
And honestly, like, those things should really happen in real time, because, you know, the other person on the other end is tired of you taking a couple of hours, days, or whatever to reflect and say, you know what, I overreacted, and I don't know what happened to my screen, but I'm still talking because I think I'm on. But anyway, that I overreacted, and, you know, I shouldn't have reacted that way, so I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like, we need to learn how to deal with things in real time and be able to say, take a step back, listen to what's being said, and basically say, you know, and basically acknowledge that you know, this is rubbing me kind of weird right now. And it's, you know, I may need a second, but you don't need the time to blow up, come back, apologize, because the person on the other end at some point is not going to really want to deal with that. Definitely. That's where that self-respect and that boundary is kind of crossed, right? How often do you want a person to apologize for the same shit all the time?
Well, I just want to, you know, read Christine Jackson, because
yeah, I was going to go there too. Sorry, Christine.
I just want to, you know, because this is relevant to what we're talking about.
Yeah, that was my next thing.
Overinflated ego is, you know, it's pride, and it's hidden behind a lot of insecurities within yourself, and a lot of insecurities on how you feel when you're in the presence of others. Mm-hmm. You know, but when it comes to, let's say, accountable love, and when it comes to the LoveSnobs, and when it comes to love as a group journey, all we're talking about is personal relationships.
Yeah.
You got to understand, there's a whole different component when it comes to dealing with your fellow man, or dealing with people you don't know, strangers and your neighbors. There's a whole other different way of dealing with things and reacting. And yeah, some of this stuff can trickle over to those things, but we operate different at work than we would with our personal relationships. Like, your personal relationship is like where, you know, like Jerry always tells me, you know, it's a relief. Like, I asked her one time, like, why when women walk in the door, as soon as they walk in the door, they just want to take off their bra? And she was like, these things are the most uncomfortable things in the planet. Now, you can find a comfortable bra, but a lot of women, I notice, the first thing they do. So that's equivalent. Like, when you come home, you should be unleashing and taking off your bra. You should be ready to relax. But when you walk out the house, you have your bra on. Why? Because you know you're going into an environment where everybody not necessarily has your best interest at heart. You can't be naked. You have to have some type of support. You have to have some type of, you know, some type of armor to some degree, you know, because you got to be aware of your surroundings. Versus when you come home, or when you're dealing in your relationships, which should be your home, you should be able to relax and take a step back and see what's going on. So piggybacking on what y'all all saying, it does deal with the fact that, yeah, you're self-aware, but it also deals with the fact of who are you dealing with that you always feel like they're out to get you.
Yeah.
The first time they disagree with you. The first time y'all not on the same page. I thought those was your allies. And then when you start treating them like enemies, that's where it becomes an issue. And that's where we're now combating ego versus self-respect. Because we lost a portion of our self-respect. Because bashing them is bashing you. And that's what people are unaware of. I hear people talk about their spouses, I mean, outrageously. I hear people talk about their friends and won't tell their friends anything. And I'm looking at them like this is a sign of who you are. It's assassinating your character.
Mm-hmm.
Because why would you be with people that you are this upset with, or you don't like, or you have these strong opinions about? So you need to evaluate that. So that's where it becomes a lot of, you know, the egotistical behavior versus the self-respect. You lose focus on what self-respect is. And yeah, it has self in front of it. But when dealing in personal relationships, self-respect is also honoring the agreements and honoring the people around you.
I also like to think that a lot of times that people call some of their behaviors as saying that they're protecting their self-respect, but it actually is their ego.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a real fine line because there's one thing of, saying, I'm not going to tolerate certain things, but your response and behavior towards the other person isn't from a place of self-respect, as a place of ego. Right. And so I really think it's also making sure that, hey, look, this is, I think the thing that just really stuck out in my mind for the last couple of weeks is that whole this is about we. And if this behavior and this action or this response is actually pushing us to be a better we, and if it's making us be a better we, then absolutely. If it's really something more about myself and, how I feel and justifying a behavior or an action or an attitude or anything else that because I simply feel like I'm right in doing so. I feel like I've had to kind of just check that behavior and that attitude, that thought process, and say, you know what, this isn't healthy. This isn't an attitude of we. It's an attitude of me, and actually I need to reevaluate that and refocus.
Yeah, Barry, I want to actually go back and touch on something you said, because I think I know it was very important. It was very valuable. We tend to think of ego as the loud, boisterous, braggadocious person. And we forget to say, like you said, a part of the ego is the people who don't even want to deal, the people who don't talk, the people who don't invest, the people who stay to themselves, the people who feel they have the right not to talk in relationships. The people that, like I recently was listening to Michelle Obama's podcast, and one thing her mother said is like, I really enjoyed the pandemic because, I was able to like be on my own and I didn't have to answer to anybody. And I'm like thinking like, why do everybody see relationships as a job? Like you have to answer to people. Like I want to tell people, yeah, I'm on my way to the store. This is where I'm going, because it's a safety thing. It's keeping people close to you. You know what's happening in your life. Like, why is it so hard to share? So that's the first thought I had. Now that wasn't her overall message, but that thought came to mind, because I'm like, why is our goal always, well, let's get to ourselves. Let's have that space for ourselves. Let's have that space to breathe. And why is your comfort zone not with your friends and not with your spouse and not with your, not in your environment that's supposed to be a safe haven? I'm not saying you don't need alone time, but like people are like really looking forward to alone time now. Like they're really looking forward to it.
Well, I think what it is that everyone is like so overloaded, and I can speak for myself with the pandemic and being furloughed. I didn't realize how much I needed a break to begin with, right? So me being furloughed for 6 weeks, right? It was like heaven, not to think about work. It was heaven, and I didn't even know that I needed the break, and I think that's the self-awareness, right? Like you're taking on all this responsibility. You're spreading yourself really thin. You have a full-time job. You have a family. You have your friends. You have all this stuff. And it's not that everything's a responsibility, but you realize that you may have taken on way too much. And when the world shut down, because it literally did, and you had to stay home, you realize like, wow, home is where it's at. You know what I mean? Like when you live with other people, like, and when you surround yourself, like I quarantined with friends, right? And that was like the best thing that happened. Being furloughed, being quarantined, being with a group of people. I didn't even realize how much I needed it until it was even happening. So I think that's another thing that we don't tend to realize too, is that when we're going through the normal hustle and bustle of life, we don't really realize how much we need that time, how much we're spreading ourselves thin, and we need to probably reprioritize what's really most important to us. But I think that that's that level of self-awareness, right? So we shouldn't have to wait till the world is shut down to realize, like, damn, I'm really tired and I just want time alone, and you shut yourself out, because those are the times when you really should be connecting. Those are the times when you should be making sure that you're around the people that matter to you and you're forging those relationships. Because if you guys didn't forge any solid relationships while you guys were quarantined, then that's an issue. Because everyone had time, nothing but time. So it's really important that we are making sure that we're putting our energy and our focus on the things that matter, and keep that in mind, and not spread ourselves thin, so everyone can have the best versions of who we are.
I think that, but I heard somebody say that a lot of relationships are being tested is because a lot of people have gotten in relationships and they really didn't. You can just see the quality of relationships, because guess what? It didn't bring the type of strength and rest and joy that one would think. So in other words, people were tolerating each other in relationships, and then all of a sudden, like you said, when the world stopped, all of a sudden you really saw that, hey, look, I didn't really want to be around this person. I just tolerated this person, or I was in this situation, or I was in this stuff. And it just started really making people question how much investment and time did they actually put into their relationship. And so you're right. I mean, trust me. I mean, but in a healthy relationship, you can say I can have time alone. Hey, look, like me personally, every Friday I go to a quiet place for myself. That is for myself to help me, untie whatever the week was and get stuff off my chest and kind of reflect and meditate and reset. Because when I re-engage my relationships, I want to be able to be present. But that's the self-awareness of myself. That's me being self-aware of the things that I need to help me stay fully engaged in my relationship. But but if I don't say that and do that, then that's on me. But I also know that a lot of people just feel like that relationships are more about a burden than it is actually, joy and enjoying each other's company and actually growing in the relationship in a way that actually is something that you look forward to. Because once again, I've been in places where you didn't have that. I mean, I've been out in the middle of deserts where you didn't have anybody. And so when you did get together, man, it was amazing, because you're like, oh my gosh, because you spend so much time alone that you start appreciating when people were wanting to connect and wanting to be a part of a relationship. Because, when you're deployed, you spend most of your time alone unless you're actually proactively doing it. So I think it's also making sure that we work on the quality of relationships so they actually are doing what they're supposed to do, not just being something that you have to tolerate or something that you're in but have no clear understanding of why you're part of the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My question was exactly what you just said. Like, why is the meditation process not bouncing ideas off your friends? Like, let's go for a walk and sit on the lake and actually have a discussion. And why is that not the reset process? Like, that's what I'm asking. Like, why is that? And I like I said,
some of us
we all deal with moderation, obviously. But one thing I know is, us as human beings, we justify things we learned in the past. Like my brother came on the podcast. My brother Troy came on the podcast and gave a whole back and forth about tradition, and he gave a whole thought about tradition and how we just follow tradition and we think it's so, but really don't have a clear understanding of what's going on. So he's like, grandma put the ham in the oven, chopped the back off, put it in the oven. Then mama did it, then daughter did it, and then one of the people finally said, why are we doing this? And then went to the grandmother, and grandmother said, because my oven was small, but y'all oven is bigger. I don't know why y'all doing it. But it's because they never ask questions. So yeah, we're all taught that we need this alone time. We're all taught that. But I'm saying you get a decent amount of alone time if you really look at it and you really engage and you really walk into the store, you get some alone time. So why is interacting with people? Obviously, Mahogany, I know you, so I already know that
I need my space.
But okay, exactly. So my question is, question.
What does that mean when you say you need your space? What I mean, what
I
does
need
that
time
mean?
to myself.
Mm-hmm. But why?
I need time with myself.
The question is why? Why is it not a person that actually you're around that actually pours back into you the way you would do it for yourself?
It's not that there's not people around that pour into me the way, like when I'm in relationships, I enjoy togetherness more often than not, but I still have moments where I want to be with me. And that's just what it is. Mm-hmm. So I need to be with someone who understands that that's who I am. I've been like that my entire life. Like, I've been like that my entire life. I have moments where I'm a creative. I like to be in my head. I like to be in my own space, doing my own thing. And that it's not a long drawn out thing, but I do need those pockets of time to do so.
Oh, okay. I get that. Pockets of time to, take an hour, pray, whatever it is. I get that. But I've seen people where they're complaining about never having time to do, taking full days to be by themselves just to simply, time alone and stuff like that, and disconnecting and disengaging from the relationship. And once again, I get it that, maybe you need to find some time to program for yourself because you're tired or whatever else. But I would also be concerned, like, hey, look, you're always alone. You're always, on your own. And how do you grow? How do you have a healthy relationship if you're spending more time away from that person, instead of actually being in relationship, and especially in a personal relationship, because, especially if you live together and stuff like that, you're not going to have that kind of time to be able to do that. So yeah, I get the fact of having alone time to reflect or be creative or whatever it is to help for your process. But I've seen relationships where people are simply not even want to spend any time together, period, unless they have to.
Well, I know that I like to spend, I like alone time too. At times, but my alone time is I still pockets of it, right? So like I go to Soul Cycle every Sunday. The only time that I really wanted to kind of do my own thing is when I want to go to the beach because nobody wants to come with me. So it's that, no one's enjoying the beach the way I enjoy the beach. So that's something that I would do by myself. I look forward to doing by myself, and because everyone else is not with it. But yeah, I've learned to steal pockets of other times. Like whether it's commuting or I take walks in the morning, I go running in the morning. I'm by myself. I walk, I run there, walk back. Those are times by myself. I go into the office every Friday. That's time commuting. That's by myself. I sometimes walk from Soul Cycle back home. That's time by myself. So you steal little pockets of it. But I used to be like mahogany. I'm not a creative like you are, but where I just needed like time. Like I just need to do my own thing. I didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want to, and I realized that that was causing a wedge with the people that I was around because they like, as you said, like if they can't pour into me like I'm pouring into them, then what are we doing? You know what I mean? And I shouldn't need a break from them. It should be rejuvenating. So when we hang out on Saturdays, I'm rejuvenated for Monday because we hung out all Saturday. And that's something that I didn't necessarily always see on my own. But as I started to actually do my part in the relationship, I realized how beneficial it was for all of us, not just for me, just for all of us, just to have that time together. Because when I start work on Monday, or I start my week on Monday, I'm back to like, okay, I can do this, all because we spent the weekend together. So there's power in numbers. It's great when you're around people that can give you that same energy and support and, pour things back into you. And you just have to steal pockets of alone time without taking away from the group, basically. And that's what I learned over time.
And I kind of agree with what you're saying. Right now my alone time is my wife works from home. I know that she's busy. And she says to me, as long as you're hanging out with the right people, I don't care. And that makes me feel good. It makes me feel great because she's given me, and I accept it as a man, she's giving me that leeway because she don't want to be bothered by the kids nor me. And I understand that she's working from home. She could be away from here, but she's home, and I enjoy that. I go out, I do my thing. I go shopping. You know, I'm the new housewife. You know, it is what it is, and I enjoy it.
Well, you're the house husband.
You're the house husband, yes.
I'm the housewife.
You're the house husband, man.
I don't want to hear no husband stuff because it don't feel like I'm a husband. I feel like I'm the housewife, but I'm good with it. Whatever you guys want to call it, you guys call it. I'm the housewife, and I don't mind. If I wanted to lay it in layman's terms, I say it differently, but I don't want to curse on here.
I think
we don't want you to curse either.
I think the thing I started doing with my alone time is using that time to rejuvenate so I can actually pour back into others. And so I actually take my alone time for Friday actually enables me to be more of what I need to be in relationships. So for me, it's strategic for me because when I feel like when I feel like I'm not able to give up my best, that's when I need to find that time to go be alone. Because, like I said, like we're all, I'm moody as hell. And so sometimes I just don't feel like being around people. But I also know that's a product of my ego. Because a lot of times I found that when I want to pull away from people, it's because somebody's going to say something that's going to make me mad. Mm-hmm. And it's actually something I need to hear. And if I'm not in the right space to hear it, then I know that, it is bad. And so I tend to use my alone time because like I said, I mean, most of us are, quarantined. And so I work in my place. And so I could be shut up in my room all day long and not come out except for going to the bathrooms. And that's not healthy. So I've had to come out and learn that strategically, I take my morning, I'll go, I'll meditate, I'll sage, do what I got to do. So that way, when I come out and I engage the people that are around me, I can be not only just my roommates and everything else, but it's also my coworkers. They need the best of me because we might be not in a personal relationship, but we are in a relationship, and they do need the best of me to come forth and not be, withdrawn in my ego and everything else. But how much more, especially if I had children, my children were with me, I need to be able to give them my best. And so for me, strategically, alone time is to recharge and rejuvenate so that I can come back and give you everything that you deserve to have in this relationship.
So, that it was just a question I asked because I hear a lot of people say that, they need alone time. Like in Mahogany's case, you're a creative, so that's work. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about like when you actually are creating, that's work. You get what I'm saying? Like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like where the day, like what Barry's basically saying. It's Friday, he's not at his best. Why is he retreating versus actually reaching out to somebody that's actually going to, he can bounce ideas off of? Like, why is it? Because we can call it what we want because a bunch of people do it, but it's isolating yourself. It's isolation. It's not a healthy practice. So I'm going to keep it gritty with y'all. It's just not a healthy practice. You know what I mean? When we're talking about healthy and equal relationships, we can't look at, okay, now I have a problem. I got to take it on my own. And I got to like sift through it on my own. I got to be in my head on my own. Well, the people that you're actually bouncing ideas off of, you know what I mean? That's building you back up because you're not at your best. And there is a lot of weight on you. Like Mahogany creating, because I just went into your realm for a little bit and it is stressful at times. You know what I mean? You're editing something, you lose the whole project, you want to explode. But I also have people I can, listen, I'm going to take a break. I can go talk to some people. We have a discussion. Maybe we talk about the fact that I messed up, the fact that I, erased it or deleted it or whatever. But my main thing is to reach out and have those discussions because when you're in your head, that's insanity. That's the fastest road to being insane.
So what do you think about introverts though? You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like I fall in that category at times. Okay. I definitely could be very extroverted at times, you know what I'm saying? Social butterfly, whatever. But then there's also times where I'm just naturally introverted, you know what I'm saying? And I think for me personally, I can't speak for nobody else. I definitely could relate to Mahogany because I create as well, you know what I'm saying? And at certain times, it's not labor. It's a labor of love. It's not work. You know what I'm saying? When you're really inspired and you're driven, like I done locked in the studio like all day. You know what I'm saying? Like not even taking time to eat or nothing, just going in, not even looking at the clock. You know what I'm saying? But as far as like the moments of introversion, I think it stems from childhood where, you know what I'm saying, I'd be off in the room just writing rhymes, or I'm on punishment or something, and the rest of the family is watching a movie, whatever the case may be. So yeah, that stems over to adults where it's like, it's natural for me to take alone time and just be off in my own space. It's effort at times for me to interact with people. You know what I'm saying? Like my son was just here the other day, and I'm like, all right, I'll check on him. I'm like, all right, you ate? You good? You need anything? All right, I'm going to be over here praying. You know what I'm saying? Off in the room by myself. And then I had to then I had to put that effort in. I'm like, oh, all right, let me play Fortnite with him. So I don't care nothing about Fortnite, but, you know, let me get that bonding time, you know? So.
But healthy, like being healthy, we all know being healthy takes work. And when I use work for creating, I didn't mean to say, okay, this is work. I'm saying it's a function of who she is. Like, it's a function of who she is. So when she's taking that time, that's something that somebody should never even think that they can take from her, because it's that time that she is creating. But when she's always creating and not giving back to relationships, and now we're, yo, listen, come through, let's go hang out. And she's like, nah, I'm creating. And she's using it to forge a gap. That's where it becomes a detrimental. You get what I'm saying? So that's where I'm saying that, just like you said with your son, like, why would I not bring him in the room to pray with me? That's all I'm saying. It's little gestures, like, let him say no. Bring him into my world. Why can't I bring a person in the room to create with me? Like, why can't I bring them into my world? Because this is the relationship. And that's what I'm saying when we're talking about ego. We're entitled to that.
Oh, no. I have those moments with him where I pray with him also, but then there's also other times where it's like, nah, this is just me and God right now.
Okay, we're never talking about the small percentages. There's a small percentage of everything. I lose my temper. There's a small percentage of all kinds of things. A lot of people don't know me to be a person that loses my temper easily. But I have lost my temper. Nobody's going to say this guy loses his temper. They're going to go off of the high percentage of who he is. You get what I'm saying? So if who you are is an introvert and you disconnect from people, but you know that having healthy relationships is a part of the health of being a person and being in, living quality of life. If you don't believe that, then there's no reason for you to really go seek relationships. But then the next question would be like, why are you in a relationship group talking about relationships?
So I tend to think that, I'm sorry. I tend to think people want to, because I'm an introvert myself. I can absolutely connect into an extroverted role because I've had to in leadership responsibilities, but I tend to be more introverted. But me being introverted is about how I reconnect with myself. Mm-hmm. So that's why I go back to saying that time alone is necessary in how I go about it strategically. So I didn't understand it for a long time. I just want to be around people. No, is what it is that so I can be effectively around people. I need to find that time and space for myself to be able to recharge, reflect with my thoughts, and then come out of that place and do that. What a lot of people do when they say I'm an introvert is that they just completely go off the grid and they just don't even want to deal with people, period. And that's not healthy. That's not a healthy introvert. A healthy introvert is someone who knows themselves and self-aware enough to say, okay, look, I need, I got my morning commute is I'm going to put my music on, or this is where I can get my creative space. So when I come out of that space of, and I'm reset, I can actually give my best in relationships. I just know me, or if I'm an extrovert, I know I'm at my best when I'm more collaborative. I want to pull more people around. I want to bring a group setting because that's where I get my energy from. That's where I'm able to work through my issues and problems, but not just to disconnect from people, period. And I think some people use that introverted thing to say, okay, I just don't want to deal with people. And that's not really, at least in my opinion, that's not really what it's all about. It's about how do you reset yourself and align your feelings and emotions so that way you can come back and reconnect with people.
Definitely.
I mean, the bottom line is you get what you put out, basically. So if you're the person in a relationship that thinks that you want your time and you want to be able to dictate how much time you put into people, how much time you want to spend alone, all that other stuff, and everything revolves around what you have going on, then you're going to be around people that are probably not going to be as solid because they're not going to be as vested. So that's just what it is. It's not, I mean, we are all about healthy relationships, forging solid relationships, but at the end of it all, if you're not in, if not you, anybody here, but just in general, if people are not in the position to be able to put in that work and to be able to think of the group and think about who they are in that group, and that it requires more time with, you know, spending with other people and connecting with other people over being by themselves, then you're going to yield a certain result. That's the bottom line of it. So I used to justify being by myself all the time. And it didn't bring me any closer to the people that I was around. So until I got out of my selfish ways, until I made a decision to say, you know what, my group is a priority. This is where, you know, I need to figure out ways and pockets to steal time to spend on my own, then the relationship is going to stay the way that it is, right? So I think that if you are still thinking about yourself and wanting to do your own thing or whatever, you probably won't have solid people around, because most people's not going to want to deal with that. Most people are going to put in what you're putting into them.
Mm-hmm. So I'm like, we obviously was just discussing people that are introverts, right? But there's extroverts that just bring all kinds of people around, and they're just acting with whoever, and they're like, that's just who I am. It's not healthy. It's not healthy to build no relationships and build no true connection and just feed off of what you are. What about a portion of you that needs the connection? So an introvert might walk up to the extrovert and say, listen, at some point you have to like build actual connections. You like saying hi to 20 people, 30 people, you're jumping from place to place, you're a nomad. And a person would say that's just me, but love and belong is in all of us. That's undeniable. You want love and you want to belong. And when they're in a room full of 30 and they feel empty, that's one thing I always hear a bunch of extroverts explain. That's their experience. An introvert don't feel that way. They're overwhelmed by how many people's in the room. It's a heightened thing. It's a lot going in and out. It's a lot they have to process. So they need to kind of distance themselves, and they have smaller groups. But what we're saying is not to have some big groups or small groups, but have strong connections. And if you could have a strong connection with a large group and y'all all truly work as one organism and y'all have strong connections, then you're extrovert and you bring people together, and how you use your ability is a whole different understanding. If you're introvert and you're like, okay, I got a small group of friends, we're saying, why do you need a vacation from your friends, from your life? That's all I'm saying. Why, when I have a bad day at work, I just want to take a bubble bath and go to sleep? Why can't I get on the phone with somebody that's actually going to enhance my day? Why don't I go get off a bad day at work and look forward to spending time with people? That's my question. If you have people around you that you truly care about.
I think that the problem, Aziz, is that we don't build that type of dynamic. Like it's almost like a chore, because, and then the other piece, and the rule that I used to say is that when you bring the world into your house, and the house is supposed to be your refuge. Mm-hmm. And if you're not intentional about even creating that type of space, you'll bring your problems into the world, and you stop forgetting that, you know what, this is refuge, and this is the space where I get to recharge, rejuvenate. The people that are in that share that space with me are also committed to that same process, and that we're all committed to saying, hey, look, we're going to love and appreciate and pour into one another. But once again, generally you come in and everybody's gotten into the ego, and so they're looking to be fed, not actually looking to pour into each other, into the group. Like we sit around the table and we're just complaining about what I need and my, me, and forget that, no, you know what? Hey, such and such is feeling, let's love on such and such, or let's turn the phones off and let's just sit on the couch and just watch TV or watch a movie together, or reconnect, or play a board game. So that way we can all feel this energy and the synergy of love, and everybody's getting poured out. It's everybody's just kind of fending for themselves and basically just going through the motions of it, and not realizing that, like you said, it's intentional. It's hey, we're intentional about this when we come home.
Definitely. If you allow things to occur, then a person's gonna say that's who I am. Like I hear too many, I go and I hear a bunch of women you know, I'm not going to say it happens with men more than women, but they're like, that's just who your father is. He doesn't talk. He doesn't really express himself. He's just not connected in that way. And they don't push him to actually, like, your children need to talk. Your children need somebody who's going to support them. And who you are, yeah, that can be who you are, but who you became as a father, you need to step up. You know what I mean? Who you become as a friend, you need to do your part. You can't just keep getting passes for who you was as a singular person. Who you are as a singular person, you can do whatever you want, when you want. But when you sign up for a relationship, you sign on to do some of the things that are not natural for you, but are beneficial to your relationship.
Yep.
So you got to create habits that make those things a little bit more natural.
That's rough. You know, I understand what you're saying, but that's rough as far as friends are concerned, because, you know, I've had a couple of friends that I thought I was close to. And, you know, then I pop up to realize that, oh, he always calls me for a ride. This one always calls me for this. This one always calls me for that. And, you know, how many times in this lifetime do you get burnt by that circle? You know, and, you know, what you're saying makes sense. But once again, how many times in life do you get burnt by that circle? And when you get burnt and you're trying to be a helpful person, it hurts.
Definitely. I mean, Joe,
Yeah.
you have to be real. Like, we all asking those questions. I hear them all the time, right? How many times we have to get burnt? How long did you stay in the fire?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Healthy
Like,
people address things ASAP, but most people are so worried about how a person feels, they don't get the solution taken care of right away.
Absolutely, and you're
So
absolutely
you called
right.
me for a ride twice, and I don't want to do it. I'm like, why you always just call me for rides?
exactly.
So I'm not staying in the fire long. That's what healthy is. Why do you have friends you can't talk to? Why do you have friends you can't address? Why you have friends that you can't be fully honest with, and that starts the dialogue? Because that's what this is all about. We had somebody reach out to us recently and was like, you know, y'all talk about disconnecting. Y'all just talk about disconnecting. I was like, that's not our message. I mean, if that's what you're hearing, I'm sorry, but that's not our message. Our message is start a discussion and have an honest discussion. So when we putting these ideas out here, it's for people who are like, my ego and who I am is more important than everything else. It supersedes your agreement to be in relationships. Singular, who you are is who you are.
Yeah.
But even dealing with humanity, you can't just sit, I want a seat, and push somebody over and sit in their seat. Like, there's consequences to those actions. So what you want is not as relevant as what we need. It's not.
And that's the piece. It's everybody's thinking about what I want and what makes me feel comfortable instead of what we need. What we need is us to come to a place where we're all pouring into each other in a healthy way. And what we need, especially in our relationships and our families, because it's not just, you know, the couple, it's the children too. We need to be able to pour in and have that, you know, they need that same pouring. They need to learn how to pour and do the same thing for all of us. So that way we all are, because if everybody's being poured into, nobody's lacking.
Definitely.
At least in my personal perspective, nobody's lacking. But it's when somebody's always taking up the need to be poured into. They've got to be the center of attention. It takes away from everybody else. Definitely. And it takes away from, and then all of a sudden that's when you get people that just kind of want to go segment and do their own thing and go find 2 hours or just disconnect from the entire family. And so this is good. This to me is the ego is in so many different ways when it comes to how this particular space. Yeah, this is a real one for me. Because once again, I've seen it. I've watched it. I've been that guy who just would disconnect from coming into the house and just go play on my phone because I was wanting to be selfish because I've had a hard day. Instead of saying, no, let me put my phone down and engage my family. Definitely. Hey, I miss you guys. What's going on? But then, crazy enough, is that when I switched up and said, let me be the person that want to engage everybody else wanted to disconnect.
Because they wanted
nobody wanted to come. Nobody wanted.
They're used to you doing what you're doing.
Nobody wanted to come because I had realized that had killed relationships in the past. Right. So, you know, I want to do that. I want to spend time with you guys. I miss you guys. You guys are important to me. Hey, turn that game off. How are you doing? You know, I want to hear about you. What's going on with you, man? I miss you. Give me a hug. and we couldn't get people on the same because, oh man, I need my space. Oh, I need this, I need that. And what are we in relationships for?
Yeah, but you couldn't get people in the same space because they got used to you disconnecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can't just walk in a room and now turn off the game. No.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You understand we are creating gaps within our relationships in the same house. Like there's gaps. Why? Because of ego. We are so entitled to feel what we're gonna feel. And we're reading a bunch of Facebook posts, a bunch of Instagram posts that's telling us we're entitled to that, which is causing the disconnect. We're not entitled to feel what we want to feel. We're entitled to feel what we want to feel and express that feeling. We're not entitled to just feel what we want to feel and disconnect based on those feelings. We signed on to be friends. We've signed on to be partners. So when we have those feelings, we signed on to reach out and have a discussion based on those feelings. So Joe, soon as you felt that people were taking you for granted, that discussion should have been had.
Yeah.
Because I run into more people like you. That's like, oh, I'm thinking, okay, we hitting the barbecue, they feeding us, they doing whatever. And before you know it, y'all taking advantage of us. We're like, what? When was this discussion gonna be had?
Yeah.
You done drove me around 3-4 times, 5 times. I went to school out of town. So people come get me for rides and take me to school, take me back from the campus. And I'm thinking, no, they looking out. I'm thinking we're building a relationship. We're talking in the car, everything. I didn't know that they was thinking, whoa, this person's using me for a ride.
Mm. Yeah, because that causes a disconnect in the relationship as well. I mean, my sister did that to me one time. She used to pick me up every day to take me to work. Well, take me to drop my daughter off to daycare. And she was complaining the whole entire time to my parents. And it's like, wow. But she offered. You know what I mean? So it's like, how are you going to offer to take me and then complain about it? Yeah. And so, yeah, that caused a wedge in our relationship because it's like, if you had an issue, then you should have said something. And I shouldn't have found out from a third party. So, yeah, like you think that, you're being the nice person. Like, what is the nice person? What is nice if you're complaining behind somebody's back? Is that nice? You know what I mean? Like, you're just playing it safe and you don't want to really deal with conflict. So, but it's wrong. You're not really helping that situation either. You're part of the problem.
Yeah, I've been on the other end of that as well. Me and Anthony were roommates in college, and he ended up having an accident when getting hit by a car when he was in high school. So he had a settlement. He had a nice fly car. You know what I'm saying? I had my left and my right feet. So he used to give me rides to work. You know what I'm saying? And then one day he's like, yo, I don't mind giving you a ride, but I can't be giving you a ride every time. You know what I'm saying? That one little conversation is like, all right, I didn't see things from his perspective until he actually spoke up. I appreciated it. There was no problems. You know what I'm saying? He expressed himself. I respected it. And, we moved on from there with a healthy friendship.
Definitely. So that's the important.
That's an example, yeah.
Because you could have took it like the ego. Yo, X, Y, and Z. No, he expressed it. And you're like, okay, so, come get me when you can. Let me know when you can come get me. There's other people that I just walk. I won't go in your car no more. Mm-hmm. They'll go extreme. So if you have friends that really you can't talk to, then why are you even in relationships with them? Because I know I'm going to say what I have to say. You know what I mean? I'm going to say what I have to say, but also I'm going to hear what they have to say. And I'm going to balance it out to see where we can find common ground. I'm not in this just to get what I want. I'm in here to boost and build the relationship. So that's what we mean by keep your ego at the door. And we're not talking about the door of your house. We're talking about when you're entering personal relationships, and relationships you say you're trying to build love in.
Correct.
If you're truly trying to build love, leave your ego at the door and start building.
Yeah.
You can't get mad when, yo, can you lift this brick? We need to get this. And, oh, the way you spoke to me, I really didn't like that. Like, where is that bigger than the fact that we need to get this accomplished? We have to think about that. Because I'm not a disrespectful person. So you had to go through a lot to get to where that's at. So that's your ego working overdrive. I'm not getting enough attention, so I'm gonna pick a fight.
I'm not validated, pick a fight.
Yeah. But the relationship validates you. Every relationship you win should be valid enough. And then having the know-how to actually have the discussions and having the know-how and the fortitude to actually want to be in other people's space and have that affection and really build and use those people to build who you are back up when the world breaks you down. We're not ever saying, I'm never going to sit here and say the message is never have time alone. I'm saying still them pockets because time is valuable, and it's better to spend time with people that you love than to isolate them by being hurt or wounded. And now your first thing to do is isolate. Your first thing to do is not bring them into the process. Even to some degree with Drastic, you know, the rap career and, you know, taking time to write in your book. I'm a person that's a writer too, so I get it. But at the same time, why can't you ask the person, yo, sometimes come in the room and let's bounce ideas and write together? Bring them into your process. Because this is why we're in relationships. So they can come into our world sometimes, we can go in their world sometimes, and sometimes we in each other's world. I mean, we let each other just enjoy their world with other people.
Nah, like singers could do that, but rappers can't do that. Rappers can't ask for ideas on bars.
You're bugging.
Is it ideas on bar? Could you just like maybe recite your bars and ask for somebody's opinion? No?
Yeah.
Nah. Rappers gotta write their own bars. You know what I'm saying? Singers could do that.
You can't pull a Drake.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is 2020, so I guess it's more acceptable, but you know, there once was a time.
No, you write your own bars. What I'm saying is have them a part of the process. We're talking about friends. We're not talking about people that are, you know, you collabing with. We're talking about friends. Just bring them in and be a part of the process. They can give you an idea, you can write it down. They're a part of the process. So I'm saying once we're all looking for ways to disconnect, we're not looking for ways to connect. And that's where that question came from, because I want people to see that your ego is not just the guy saying, yeah, I hit that jump shot in your face. And it's not just that guy. It's also the guy that shrinks as well and doesn't add value to the relationship either.
Yeah, that was such a good point, Barry.
So I'm going at the person and they're shrinking. We're both at fault. Because you should stand up for yourself. Where's your self-respect? So it goes hand in hand. If you have self-respect, then a person can't be as boisterous, can they? As soon as they show a level of importance they didn't earn, you're going to say something, right? So that's where the self-respect offsets the ego.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have it, there's no room for it. And if you're truly a person of self-respect, you're not going to allow ego to destroy your relationship.
Yeah.
You'd rather eliminate the relationship before you allow it to destroy it. And there's a big difference. If you allow it to destroy it, there's no going back.
Well, yeah, and if you're in a relationship where you can't be who you truly are just to maintain a relationship, you're in the wrong relationship.
Definitely. So, you know, Jerry, we obviously at 10:24.
Yeah, so anybody who didn't share, please, you know, still share it. Because again, this was another good discussion to circulate, give people something to think about, especially with, you know, maintaining your self-respect, what being egotistical is, and making sure that you're still connecting with the people that you say that you love and you have personal relationships with. But as you know, we have services, and if anybody, you know, needs support in areas with their friends and their personal relationships, you can look us up on loveasagroupjourney.com. And, you know, the other day, Aziz and I was just talking, you know, about our builders and just where we are today, and just we're just so happy that we're at a place where we can help support people in their lives with what they have going on, and just seeing them making the changes in their lives. Like, that's the most rewarding thing, that it's bigger than money, right? Yeah. It's all we ask for. We want, you know, people to be able to have healthy and strong relationships and be able to foster that. And the fact that we are a part of that is just an amazing thing. So, you know, it's bigger than the money. It's bigger than, you know, all the fluffy stuff that comes with it. But it's nice to see people making those major changes in their lives, having those conversations with the people that are in their lives, and really wanting to be in healthy, equal relationships. So, you know, we appreciate everyone's support, everyone sharing these Let's Talk Relationship webinars that we have, anyone that's sharing our content, whoever's going back and listening to our podcast, and just following us on social media. We appreciate all your support. We appreciate everyone helping us get the message out. And Thank you for coming tonight.
Definitely. And I want to add, like, we have definitely been blessed because all of our builders come ready to work and put in the work. You know, they're ready to put in the work on a regular basis and really ready to allow themselves to be vulnerable and really, you know, because we challenge them. And I'm sure we challenge them at their wits end, and we're challenging them still. And they come ready to work every time. So we do it.
Yeah, it's great.
We've been blessed. I mean, we haven't had too many people we're looking at like, okay, this person's a little much. We have everybody that comes and they come in ready to work. So we've been blessed.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a great show to listen to tonight. Thanks, I loved it.
Thank you, Christine. We appreciate it. We appreciate you guys.
Yes. We'll see y'all next Monday.
Yes, next Monday.
Back.
Same time.
Congratulations on retirement. Looking good on you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.